This is something that I didn't really understand, that screw up was part of the process. If you're not screwing up, then you're not learning anything. You're not moving ahead.
All right. So how does one niche in stretch and mobility?
Yeah.
Okay. So I think Tremaine touched on it just a little bit when she talked about talking about the ligaments and all that stuff. So if somebody has more knowledge when it comes to the ligaments and the movement, like that within itself is an entirely different focus. I think we started to talk about it earlier when I was talking to you about the difference between what I did with you with Bodywork versus what we did in our last session, which incorporated the weights, which incorporated exercise,
stretching,
and all the stretching that came in that. That within itself is almost like the therapist needs to be fit enough to do it. Because an average person, if you see 4 people in a day for stretch therapy, you need to be fit enough to actually do that.
Okay.
So that's why that's a niche within itself. So that's specialized. If you're gonna focus on somebody's body, you gotta first focus on your own. And so to be able to do that, I had to get down on the ground and squat with you.
Yeah.
I had to be able to, when you were on the ground, stretch you, move your body around.
You're right.
Remember, we got to a point where I was just like, you have to give up, like you have to let go. So that person needs to be able to be strong enough to move any size person. Because you're what, 6'2"?
6'2", yeah.
I am like
240 pounds.
Yeah. So to take on your body weight and move you around, I need to be fit enough to do that. The therapist needs to be fit enough to do that.
Not just fit enough, but you need to have knowledge of posture.
Right.
You have to know how to move, how to stand, because if you don't have that posture, then you can injure yourself as well.
Yeah.
So body posture and body mechanics play a part in it as well.
I think Jonathan can tell you a little bit of body mechanics.
Yeah.
Because he's been having back pain. Just sitting in the car was painful for him.
Mm-hmm.
So the therapist having the knowledge of what he's doing with his body, being able to see it, because that was something that the therapists that work with me, that we've been talking about, being able to look at someone and see that their shoulders are curling in, this person's shoulders is up.
Not just that.
Sit up straight as you talk about it.
Posture.
Yep.
Yeah, because the posture causes the pain. So now if you're a therapist, when it comes to stretch and mobility, you need to know what needs to be stretched, and you need to know how you're going to mobilize this particular group of muscles.
You also need to know how far you can go with it, because keep in mind now that physiotherapy is working muscles and joints and tissues and everything. And physiotherapy can do good to the body as well as it can do bad if you don't know what you're doing, right?
Okay.
So with movements and with working nerves and tendons and ligaments and joints, you need to know exactly what you're doing, because you could harm yourself.
Right.
Right?
And the client.
Right.
Yeah, and the client. I think one of the main things is like when they don't have the knowledge and they don't know what even the good or the bad is in it, it's going in it blindly, not knowing that you can bring harm.
Right.
Because therapists, so we have some therapists that's been therapists for years, and they don't know the dynamics of the what, the why, and the wheres. I have a client that you know of that is aged. She had a stroke and she's in a wheelchair. But because of posture, how are you going to be able to stretch her? How are you going to move her body around while in the chair or on the bed? And she's unable to speak back to you. So a therapist that has enough knowledge would then know how to take care of a client even when they're not able to respond back.
Vocal, when they're vocal.
Okay.
So what we normally do in the medical part of it, if I have a client that's not vocal, is not able to speak, what we do is we watch their facial expression.
Right.
So let's just say, for example, let's piggyback on the client that we both know. You know that she has pain, or you know that something is uncomfortable when she wrenches her face or make a moan or make some sort of noise. And so sorry that I hurt you. Let's try it a little softer. And so you keep in mind the feeling of the patient and how they are feeling while doing it.
I think sometimes Jonathan will know there is going to be a level of pain, but I think it's also understanding why.
Right.
Because I don't think he enjoys his massage all the time. But the fact that he has pain tells me that this is a muscle that has either been overused or underused, because it's either tender or sore.
Right.
But you need to know the difference.
And how do you know the difference?
I know the difference because we go right back to posture. I know the difference because with somebody's posture, I can look and see if they're rotated forward. Their muscles will be shortened at the front, which is the pecs. If I touch that muscle, it's likely that it's going to be tender. But then when I touch the muscles at the back, it's going to be sore. And so that's why I ask a lot of questions. I want them to tell me what they're feeling. I want them to say what is going on. And as they keep responding to me and explaining to me, then I'm able to then better treat them.
Right.
But if we're going to go right back to that same client that is not able to speak, then it's a question that you have in your mind when you move that person. Did they feel pain because they're not mobile? So the muscles are now going to be stiff. The joints are stiff. So is this something that I should continue doing? Yes, it's uncomfortable. Can I go further or should I stop? And I think once the therapist has knowledge on the body, I think that's an easier answer for that client.
So you think that's something that we lack with therapy here in the Bahamas, therapists here in the Bahamas, less knowledge, like therapists have less knowledge?
I most definitely think the anatomy, they're not diving as deep into the anatomy as they could. And then if they are applying the anatomy to each perspective of like this.
The functions.
Each function. How do you tie that in? Because it's one thing to have the knowledge, it's one thing to have general science and biology and all of that, but then now how does that come together?
Right.
So how do you find this, if you want to specialize just in mobility, how do you find those people? Like what specifically type of people, what kind of people need a mobility therapist? I mean, I know I do, because you started stretching me out and I realized how bad a shape I'm in and how like weak a lot of my muscles are.
I think once you have muscles, you need it.
So
that's why the Pilates.
Broadly, it's everybody.
Yeah, that's why Pilates and yoga is something that's so predominant right now.
I feel that everybody needs therapy, honestly. All sorts of therapy. We're on physical therapy right now. And I feel that everybody needs physical therapy because everybody moves their body.
Right.
Everybody uses muscles. Whether you sit down to a desk and you're hunched over a desk, whether you walking around, you need therapy to rub your legs, whatever it is, swimming, doing whatever. Mm-hmm. I feel like everybody needs therapy.
So I kind of feel like out of all of these, this is probably the most lucrative because it's a very wide audience. Right. You've taught me to understand that when I see people walking around with a limp and hunched and all these kind of things, they really just need Elizabeth, because you can massage them and get them straightened out. And I think of people I know in my life, and now just walking by random people, I think
now you're looking at them.
They don't realize that they could be fixed. Yeah. They just don't know. Yeah. And in today's world, being healthy is the new wealth, right? It's what everybody wants. Having millions of dollars does not mean nearly as much as being healthy. And so I feel like this niche is huge, but it also probably provides the greatest opportunity to help a lot of people. And so if you're gonna dive, we have a unique opportunity here in the Bahamas that there are a lot of wealthy people here, tremendous amount.
Believe it or not.
And when you focus on working with the wealthy, you put yourself in the path or in the flow of money. Right. And it is much easier in business to just get yourself in the flow. There is millions of dollars flowing in and out. And if we have large businesses here, very, very big business doing billions of dollars a year, and they're transacting those billions of dollars, you just need to get within that path. Right. And that will help you. And a lot of people initially, they think they have some reservations about working with the wealthy. You know, I just want to help the people that maybe can't help themselves and things like that. But the reality is, if you get within that path of the wealthy and you can make a lot of money in your business and your business becomes successful, then you have the ability to help people. When you yourself and your business is small and not making profit, not investing, not looking after your own self and your family and your family's future, you really can't help that many people. Right. You're kind of stuck in that small world and small thinking. If you go out and interject yourself into that space, make your business really successful and set up your family, now you have the ability to open clinics, set up programs to help other people, to really make a difference in the world or within your community in the country. You're helping so many more people than if you have a small mindset and you don't want to go call on a millionaire, you just want to help the person next door. Right. And so you sort of have to get beyond that idea, knowing that that might be the end goal, and the way to get there is to put yourself within that path of money.
The fear of, there's a dynamics of working a 9 to 5.
Yeah.
People, that's normal. That's sure. Although it's maybe way less, it's sure money. I think you can all touch on it a little bit. You can start from Jonathan and then Tremaine. Okay. Speaking to the therapists that may be afraid to come out of work and mortar, wherever they are.
Right.
We have a lot of resorts, so most of them may be at the resorts, but they're putting in a lot of time. They're putting in more than 40 hours. That's not a 40-hour week for them. That's right. At least 50 or more. And
abusing themselves in the process, to wearing themselves out, that kind of thing. Yeah. You know, and being an employee is not really a sure thing. That's assuming that the business does stay in business. You know, a large resort most likely going to, but the fact that a large resort's going to employ you is not a sure thing. When COVID happened, a lot of people got unemployed instantly, right? If tourism drops, people get unemployed. So being an employee, it might feel comfortable, but you're relying on somebody else, right? If you actually make the plunge and start working for yourself, first you become self-employed, which is basically a one-man show, right? But at least you're now relying on yourself. And it might be scary, but you're relying on your own ambition, your own work ethic, you know, just doing the hard work yourself instead of relying on somebody else, being somewhat delusional that it'll be okay because you're working for them. You really need to take the plunge and start to learn a lot and make mistakes. And that's really what it comes down to. What I was saying the other day was most people have the fear of starting a business or going out on their own. Mm-hmm. And it's not really, you need to eliminate the idea of fear when you know that you're going to fail. That's the reality. If you look at the statistics, 97% of all businesses fail in 10 years. The majority fail in the first 2 to 3 years. But 97% fail after 10 years. So failure is part of the lesson. Yeah. That's how you learn things. So if you can embrace failure and the fact that you are going to screw up, it is going to be hard. All you have to do is try again and just keep trying and trying and trying. Then failure is not really in the equation. If all you do is keep trying, screw up, learn something so you don't make those mistakes again, and just keep going. And so I think people they're afraid of the idea of failure. You know, what if it doesn't work? But the facts are, all you need to do is read some books or listen to some books, learn as much as you can about business, and embrace the fact that you're going to screw up. That's all it is. And when you screw up, you have the ability to go and do it again, not make those mistakes, adjust a little, pivot, do something different. But that's not failure.
Right.
And so really, what do you have to fear? There's just, you shouldn't be afraid of anything, because all it is correcting mistakes and moving on.
You make it sound so simple.
But when you can erase that idea of fear in your head, then it is simple. It's not hard anymore. But we let that crazy, it's one half of your brain with all the negativity is louder than the other half, right?
It's the fear that's keeping them back.
The fear turns everybody. I heard somebody once say, think of it as like a radio station. The negative half of your brain is the loudest radio station, and the positive half, where you get the ambition and your wants and your goals in life, is the quiet one. You need to turn up that radio station and turn down the other one. And every time you think of these negative thoughts coming into your head, just visualize that. Turn that radio station down and crank up the other one.
Right.
And listen to motivation or whatever you need to do to keep yourself going. And I think this is something that I didn't really understand, that screw up was part of the process. If you're not screwing up, then you're not learning anything. You're not moving ahead.
Wow.
And I didn't really understand that. I was afraid of screwing up. And so I moved way too slow. And that is like, I was on stage 2 years ago and they asked me my biggest mistake. I made thousands of mistakes, but the biggest one was thinking too small and not wanting to screw up. Just, being afraid and doing things too small. And eventually, through, School of Hard Knocks, you learn it, and now it's okay, just screw up. But let's do it big time. I would rather make big mistakes and make big movements forward and advance and get better than just be small, making small mistakes and very little advancement.
It's so funny that you asked this question. I mean, it is very funny that you asked this question, because this is not my life. So I was on a 9 to 5. And then after a while, they say that when you start to feel uncomfortable, then it's time to go. And so I spoke to my husband about it. He's like, oh, you really sure that's what you want to do? And then, like, the carnal side of you would say, that don't even make no sense, to just leave a job that's paying you sure, leave sure for unsure. You ain't sure about nothing, but then you need to make that step to go on your own. And so I did it. I made that big step, and I left. And then I started a week ago.
Excellent.
A week ago.
Congratulations.
And so, listen, if I don't want to dive into the story, but however, it was just fair. Like you mentioned, It was fair. I'm not wanting to pivot to change to another direction. And so I let fear keep me back for so long. And then I just made that big step. You know what? I don't know where I can get this amount of money from. And it was some good money. I don't know who's going to give me this, but I know I need to work on doing me, work on being a better me, work on my business, work on becoming an entrepreneur and doing stuff for myself so I can be a better person. So I am able to blossom into this person that I'm supposed to be.
Right.
And so I can say, once you not let fear keep you back, and once you push forward and know what your goals are, what it is that you want to accomplish in life, then you shouldn't have an issue.
Yeah, it all sounds easy. I can say that for sure. Even when y'all say it, it just sounds like, yeah, that makes sense. But I remember when I got thrown into entrepreneurship because I came back to the Bahamas. There was nowhere, I didn't fit anywhere. There was nowhere for me to be. So I had to create where I was going to be, what I wanted to be paid, not giving all of my time to any company. The thought process of working a 9 to 5 or 8:30 to 4, whatever it was, did not make sense because I came from a place where I got paid for my time, the actual time that I show up to do the work, not the being there all day and then have one service and you're just paid for that one service. Like,
so listen,
to me.
And that part of me is why I am kind of like stepped out too, because I was, like you say, on this 9 to 5 and just making one set pay. You know, from that week that I left, I just offered service. And I have made more offering services
Right.
than what I made in a week. So I was like, this doesn't really make so much sense. No, I'm like, this doesn't make any sense. I'm sitting here sometimes 8 hours a day, sometimes 12 hours a day.
12 hours a day.
Yeah, 8 to 8 was my shift,
Yeah,
or 8 to
nurses
4.
do 12 hours.
Right. So I'm like, this doesn't make any sense. I can go and I can offer these services and make this same amount of money in a day. So it boosted me to, it's now boosting me to want to go out on my own, because I'm seeing it. But once you're there in that 9 to 5, you don't really see it as like, I need this. I'm not sure about what is out there, but you got to go out there to get it.
I think just stepping out, just making that first step is the initial thing to do, and then just making sure that people can see you, making sure that people know what it is that you do.
Right.
Because when you reach out to me, I've never seen anything on your post about being a nurse. I didn't know that you were. I didn't know that you offer private services, and so I think that part is the it. Like, everywhere you go, speak that thing, whatever the thing is that you do, like letting people know that this is what I do.
Right.
And I found that to be hard, because sometimes you don't, there's so many things that you do, you don't know what to really say. But having a mentor
Helps
yeah,
a lot.
having a career mentor that can see all the aspects of your business and you as a person, and then be able to say, no, this, you need to drop all of that and focus on this thing.
right.
Because sometimes you're so attached to things that isn't bringing you money, that makes you maybe feel more emotionally
Distraught.
or whatever.
Right.
Because I think sometimes it makes you feel good, but it doesn't bring you any profit. Like Jonathan said earlier about wanting to help the people that may not be able to afford your services, the people that may not come to you often. You may have one client a week if you focus on that particular group of people, but then focusing on the group of people that are able to afford you, and then later on assisting the ones that wasn't able to afford you.
Right.
I think the mindset shift is drastic, especially for the Bahamian community, because we are so dependent on a company. We're so dependent on someone else, and then the culture just stems back to like slavery and all of that. But we're not going there. But the point is that it's the mindset that has to change. It's the mindset, like you said. You came out of a 9 to 5 for 1 week, and you made what you made in a week in a day.
In a day.
And I think the same thing happened to me. What I call the contracts and places that I worked, because it was a crutch. It was like, it wasn't allowing me to push my business, but it was still bringing me some level of money, and I didn't really have to do too much. But this, being an entrepreneur, takes work. I don't think everybody can be an entrepreneur or wants to be an entrepreneur. But if you're going to, run a business, if you're going to be a therapist and do these things, people still need to know what you do.